Patrick Cantlay finally breaks through for his first career PGA Tour victory in a playoff, and Justin Rose wins back-to-back weeks on the Euro Tour. We'll preview the OHL Classic from Mexico with the latest stats, odds, and picks. As Prime Sports Golf, brought to you by Pro Golf Weekly on Prime Sports Network, starts now. All right, it's Wednesday, November 8th, 2017. I'm your host, Greg DePalma. We are 1 week away from the end of the PGA Tour calendar year of 2017 as we preview the OHL Classic. And, of course, on today's show, my co-host, Jeff Shane, and Joel Cook will help me along with that. First, Jeff Shane, PGAtour.com contributor, where you can find his first look reports every Friday prior to every event on the PGA Tour. Jeff, how's it going?
Hanging in. How about yourself?
Yeah, it is a very busy time of year.
Busy week.
Yes, yeah, a lot going on. Now, golf, on the other hand, is slowly coming to an end. So not so busy, but still, the wins matter, the points matter, especially for players like Patrick Cantlay, who picks up his first PGA Tour win. And Joel, you were the one who got that one right last week?
I did. That was my first pick. Felt good to get back in the winner's circle.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks, back-to-back weeks, not only for Justin Rose, but for us here on the show. Yeah. So, well, Jeff, you're next.
I hope.
Yeah.
Now, I will add a little asterisk. I lead the group in runner-up finishes with 4 in 6 events.
Well, that matters in fantasy, so there's no question about that. That's pretty important. So, good for you. Who did you have a runner-up this past week?
No, neither Alex Cheka nor Wee Kim was on my list.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked about that. Come on now.
Hadley was pretty close.
All right. So, anyway, yeah, big win for Patrick Cantlay. And we knew it was just a matter of time the way he had been playing, Joel. And you know, especially the field and all of that. But what a huge putt for him in order to extend after the first playoff hole, because it didn't look good for him. I mean, that hole was, it's like a U.S. Open hole. The way that hole was playing, that I tell you what, I thought he had a less than 50% chance of knocking that par putt down to extend the match for himself.
Well, he had made a few of those. I thought he might have lost it on his approach shot on the 18th when he hit way out to the right. But yeah, everyone was butchering that last hole. It was crazy how difficult it played once the wind picked up. I mean, Cheka birdied it, but he played. You know, he was out there way before everyone else was. And then in the playoff, they kept having to. You know, on 18 again, I was a little concerned that, you know, Cantlay was form at the end there, but he made the shots when he needed to. Had some great par putts down the stretch. I think there was one long one on 14, the drivable par 4 one. He had an even longer putt, and it was great to see that happen. Everything he's been through, and you know, where he was in 2011, we would have thought he had a lot more wins than this by now, but yeah. Great story with everything he's gone through, and to finally come out on top. See, this opens the floodgates, and we see him winning more often in the future. I suspect that we will.
Yeah, you just got to stay healthy, Jeff, because Cantlay has got a lot of talent, and so of course he's going to have a little bit of a break here to get going again. I guess we'll see him in Hawaii. In the way he's playing, he might even be somebody to watch in Hawaii. But if he can stay healthy, he could have a big year.
Absolutely, and I think this past year was a big year for him because he was able to play and stay healthy. And with Patrick Cantlay, the only question mark for him since 2012 has been health. We've seen his talent. We saw how he was low amateur at the U.S. Open at Congressional in 2011. We saw how he shot 60 in the Travelers as an amateur right after that U.S. Open. He spent almost a full year at number 1 in the world amateur rankings. Everything was falling into place until he suffered a stress fracture in his back in his rookie professional season. That was 2013, I'm sorry. And it's taken 4 years for him to get back to this point. And as long as his back is holding up and everything is good health-wise, again, we've seen how talented this man is.
All right, and Justin Rose, as we mentioned last week, maybe the win was going to be big for him for 2018, and well, it's still 2017 on the European Tour, but Justin Rose wins back-to-back, and he does it in come-from-behind fashion in back-to-back weeks. So, wow, watch out for Justin Rose in 2018, Joel.
Yeah, I would think so. He got off to a good start last year too. He kind of disappeared there for a while after the runner-up finish at the Masters. Yeah, it's back-to-back weeks for him. He had those two birdies right over those last three holes when Padraig Harrington had caught up to him. And yeah, he's a guy, he knows how to finish. He's extremely talented. It's gonna be exciting to see how he performs. I think it's great that he only has one major. I feel like he's been in contention more than that. But yeah, it should be a big year upcoming for him. I don't see him still. He's not on the field this week, but he'll be one to look for next week.
Yeah, what is it? I mean, Rose at this? I mean, he's in the prime of his career, though, isn't he, Jeff? I mean, there's no reason to think that Justin Rose can't be Player of the Year next year. He can't have that type of year. I mean, he's definitely, as long as he's healthy, he's that type of player. He just has to put it all together in 1 year, and who knows? Maybe 2018 could be his best year ever.
Yeah, it certainly could be. He's been the type of player. Now, the back. He had his own back issues last year in 2016 and only won one tournament, although it was the Olympics gold medal. So pretty nice one if you're only going to win one for the year. But I think he's been just trying to learn how to pace himself as he gets older, as the back gets a little crankier, which I think is part of the reason why he's not in South Africa this week. He preferred to go home and get with his physio, get with his swing coach so that he can make one good push in Dubai, perhaps to steal the European points title at the very end. But he's not anywhere near over the hill. I think he's just reached that point in his career where he's got to manage his starts. And boy, if he does that and he continues with the form that he's shown this past month, he can certainly be that type of player.
Now, what's going on? Go ahead, Joel.
I think he's won on like 6 continents now. I heard that the other day. Thought that was real impressive.
Now, what's going on with the points race over there? That was the first event of 3 last week, Jeff?
That was the first playoff event, and this week's Nedbank Challenge in South Africa is number 2. Tommy Fleetwood had a big lead until Justin Rose won the past 2 weeks, and the gap has been cut to 134,000 points, which I think is some sort of transcription from Euros, maybe with points doubled in certain events. So it looks like it's a big gap, but apparently it's not. So Rose is definitely within striking distance. And then depending on how guys like Tyrrell Hatton or Ross Fisher or Rafa Cabrera Bello perform this week, they might still be able to get within striking distance of Fleetwood as well when they go to Dubai next week.
All right, we'll get into what's going on this week in the European Tour in a little bit. Meanwhile, there was some announcements as far as the Ryder Cup and PGA Championship regarding the San Francisco's Olympic Club, Jeff?
Yeah, actually, the official announcement hasn't come, but there was a press conference scheduled for today. It might even be taking place while we're doing this show. And the reports are that Olympic Club, which has hosted 5 U.S. Opens but never any PGA of America championships, is kind of switching allegiances, so to speak, and will host the 2028 PGA Championship and the 2032 Ryder Cup, where I'm sure, Jordan Spieth will be the captain, perhaps, of that team. Yes, we're talking about the 2032 Ryder Cup. But anyway.
Will we be alive?
Who knows these days? That's 15 years from now. But the PGA of America likes to get out ahead of things, I suppose. But
okay.
That's the package deal. And they do tend to announce, major championship venues about 10 years in advance. So the 2028 PGA Championship makes sense. The 2032 Ryder Cup was a little surprising, but Olympic Club has been a really good venue, and I had a chance to go out for the 2012 U.S. Open, and I think it's a fantastic venue. It's just quirky because it never seems to crown the right guy, so to speak, when they play the U.S. Open there. That's where Jack Fleck defeated Ben Hogan in 1955, perhaps the greatest unknown in modern U.S. Open history. It's where Billy Casper chased down Arnold Palmer from 7 shots back with 9 holes to play to win in 1966. And if you remember in 2012, Webb Simpson won that U.S. Open, even though he never led the U.S. Open until after he'd signed his scorecard and retired to the clubhouse.
All right. So we look forward to attending those 2 events.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll get some we'll get those discounts, those senior citizen discounts. Hopefully we won't need the wheelchair seating as well. Okay, so let's talk about this week's event on the PGA Tour. So what do we know about this event, the OHL Classic? Well, what do you know about it, Joel? Playa del Carmen in Mexico. Anything that sticks out for you besides the fact that Ricky Fowler's playing, which is a big shock? I don't think anybody. I don't think we would have expected that a few weeks ago, but that's good for the event.
Yeah, it should be great for the event. He's the premier person there by quite a bit. The thing that stands out to me, it's a small course. It's under 7,000 yards, which seems like we haven't seen much of that lately. And it's a complete diametrically opposed to what we're seeing on the Europe Tour this week, where it's like 7,800 yards. This one's a 69 something, and it's it's still kind of a shot maker's course. I mean, some of the bombers are gonna, it's gonna neutralize their advantage a bit. There's, no one's gonna be taking the drivers out very much there. Rough's pretty bad, but yeah, it's gonna be, who's hitting fairways and who's hitting greens. Just one of those kind of tournaments. Another beautiful course. We're getting a lot of that at this time of year. It's an intriguing field, and I think having Ricky in there helps a lot.
Yeah, what is it, Jeff, about this event? I mean, you do look at the past winners, and we do have Graham McDowell winning here a couple of years ago. So I think he's the biggest name, right? He's the only former major winner that's won here, correct? They've been playing here since 2007?
Yeah, I think that's correct. They've definitely been playing here since 2007. It used to be an opposite event. It used to be, I think it was opposite the WGC Match Play. They finally got their own date back in, I think it was 2013. But it's a fall date, so a lot of the big names tend not to come out, which is not just specific to Mexico, but we didn't see very many big names in Las Vegas last week either. I think the top names pick 1 or maybe 2 events to play in the fall to keep sharp, or maybe to go to a favorite locale, but they aren't going to make a real swing of things unless they take on the Asian part of the schedule. So Graham McDowell, actually the year he won, that was a last minute commitment. He was not intending to go to Mexico, but he was playing okay, and he thought, well, I'll go 1 more week, and he wound up winning the thing. But what we do see here is kind of as opposed to what we have last week in Vegas, where Patrick Cantlay became the 11th first-time PGA Tour winner of the past 16 champions in Las Vegas. This is one that kind of casts the 20-somethings aside in favor of the veterans. Pat Perez winning last year in a great comeback, 3rd start after shoulder surgery. We talked about Graham McDowell. Fred Funk was their first champion. Their first champion was a senior tour player at age 50. And of the 10 champions that have been crowned in Mexico, 8 of them have been age 30 or above. So this caters to veterans. I think, as Joel mentioned, it's a shorter course. It's more of a shot maker's course. That plays more into the hands of the veterans than in the young guns.
Okay. All righty. So let's get right to it. And what is this? Joel, you have the first pick?
I had it last week. I think I'm third this time.
Oh, so so you went. So the very first pick of the week was the winning pick last week.
Yes.
Okay. So that means I go first?
In the rotation, I go first, but if you'd like to take it.
No, you can go.
And I'll switch with you because.
All right, so let's see. So Jeff goes first, then me, then Joel. Okay. All right. So, Jeff, this is your chance, Jeff. You got to go 3 for 3. We only got one more week to go. Time for you to get in the winners column. No runner-ups.
Oh, but that's where I've seemed to live all year.
And by the way, Ricky Fowler, as we mentioned, is the favorite, so he is the clear favorite at 8-1. There's nobody else in this field that's got the name recognition like Ricky. We haven't seen Ricky in an event like this since the Tour Championship. He didn't play particularly well in that one. But besides that, Ricky, of course, had a very good season. Pat Perez is next. He's a defending champ at 14-1, and then we have a drop-off to the 20-1 shots, which include Patrick Reed, Chasson Hadley, and Gary Woodland. So not a top firepower field with Ricky at the top all by himself, defending champ next, and then a whole bunch of other players in the middle.
Darts.
Yep.
Yes, darts.
So get that dart out.
Well, I'm going to just I think what I'm going to do is continue to ride the hot hand that Chesson Hadley has shown. His first 3 starts of the new season have been 3rd, 2nd, and 4th, and that's coming off a win and a runner-up finish in the Web.com Tour Finals. We know he's a streak player, and in this type of field, he's as good a bet as any, and nobody is playing more consistently right now than Chesson Hadley. His only PGA Tour win as well, if this factors in at all, came outside the United States in a Latin American locale.
All right. That might work. But you might as well, like you said, stick with him. You've been picking him, and he's playing well. So is there a chance, though, he might be tiring out soon? He seems to play every week.
Well, he could. And this might, this could very well be the one where that he does. But I think he's been trying to load up, on the early schedule. And he did not go to Asia. And so in that sense, he's only playing his 3rd consecutive event. He played Mississippi. He played last week, and he'll play Mexico. And he'll likely play a 4th consecutive by going to Sea Island because that's not all that far from where he lives. But it's not as if he has not taken weeks off. He just took those Asian weeks off.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and stick with a player who should work pretty well here on this golf course. That's Zach Johnson, who's got 5 top 20s over his last 8, including a runner-up at the Bridgestone. So I'm going to go ahead and take Zach. I know Zach is overdue for a win. So Zach will be my top pick at 28-1. Joel, who are you going with?
I'm not going to overthink this. Ricky's just the best guy there. He's the best player on the course. He may not fit the profiles who usually wins, but there aren't usually guys like him there. I didn't even write him down on my list here because I didn't think I thought he had no chance of lasting till 3rd. I'll take him.
All right.
Even at 8-1.
All right, 8-1 is actually in this field. It's a good price for Ricky. We'll see if with everybody expecting him to win, we'll see if he can go out and do it. And that's something he hasn't yet elevated his game even to the Justin Thomas level. So that's what we're all waiting for. Ricky is 2018 going to be his season to be Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas and then Ricky Fowler. All right, Jeff. So you got Hadley. Who's your at 20-1? Who are you going to go with second?
I'm going to take a guy that has been kind of a horse for the course. He's played 8 times. His scoring average there is 68.8. So he likes Mayakoba, and he's coming off a couple of top 20s in Asia and rested last week. But Charles Howell III seems to like this course. We know he's overdue for a win as well, but I'll go with him.
Yeah, I liked Howell as well. I'm not sure where I would have taken him, but I definitely had him on my mind. So, yeah, I think that's a good pick. Like you said, he's played well here, consistently well here before, and this might fit the profile of the player to win here. All right, let's see. I will tell you what. I'm going to go ahead and take a former champ and somebody who is coming off a big season last season. Played pretty well on a golf course that he hadn't played well at the last few years. Last week, Charlie Hoffman, who finished 18th. So at 25-1, I'm going to go with Charlie Hoffman as my second choice. Joel, you are next. And who are you going to follow that up with? Ricky Fowler and?
I'm going to go with Ches Reavie at 33-1. He hits a lot of fairways and greens. He's fourth in driving accuracy last year. He hasn't missed a cut in forever now, and he was tied for fourth in this tournament last year. He likes the course. He's a great fit for it, and he's playing really well right now. He's been in the top 25 in all four of his starts this year. He's kind of about that age. He's 35. He fits that profile pretty well of the champions we see here, and he's looked good. I have very high hopes for him this week.
Yeah, he definitely does sound like somebody who would fit in really well here, especially since, like you said, we've both taken him recently. He's been very consistent, and he just has to put it all together. Not a very tough field, so maybe this is the week he can get it done. All right, Jeff, next, before you, unless you want to, this is definitely a place where if you want to go with long shots early, you can do that. But let's see. You still
They're
have
all long shots.
Yeah, pretty much. You still have defending champ Pat Perez, and then Gary Woodland and Patrick Reed up there. Kevin Chappell's also up there at 25-1. Before we move on to the rest, so who do you like as your third choice?
For my third choice, I'm going to go with somebody who had a good playoff run. Started off pretty well to this season and was top 10 last year at Mayakoba with a couple of 66s, and that's Luke List. Might be a little young on the profile, but everything else seems to fit.
Yeah, List was I had him last week, I think, right? Yeah, I had List last week. He finished 20th and 7th last year here, so he was definitely somebody to keep in mind once again. So, yeah, I think he's definitely a player to watch for sure this week. Luke List at 40-1. I'm going to go ahead and take a player that won for me as an alternate last year in his first PGA Tour win. And he's coming off a 7th place finish at 33-1, Bryson DeChambeau. So I'm going to go with Bryson DeChambeau, just like Charles Howell III, sitting there at 33-1. Joel, who are you taking?
I'm going to go former champion here. I like Graham McDowell at those 40-1 odds. He played well last week. He ended up finishing in the top 10. He was tied for second in driving accuracy, hit 14 of 18 greens in round 4. He hits a lot of fairways. He's one of the best putters on tour. He's 38 years old. I think I like him at those odds, especially as a past champion.
All right. In the books, and Graham McDowell, we're waiting for him. Any particular reason why you think, Joel, that Graham McDowell's game hasn't been where we would expect it to be the last few years? Is it age, or is there another reason? I haven't seen any injuries.
I haven't either. It's just, I wouldn't say it's age. He's 38. So he shouldn't be. He's not saying that yet.
No.
I'm not really sure what's gone on with him. He had a lot of. He was very consistent too, and now it just seems like we never hear his name often. But he's entering more of these kind of tournaments. And hopefully that what he did last week can kind of carry over into this week. I don't know, Jeff may have some better insight into why he's kind of leveled off the past few years. It was surprising. I was expecting more after his after his U.S. Open win.
Do you, Jeff? Do you have more insight?
Well, he had a pretty good run there for 3 or 4 years. Remember, he was a Ryder Cup maven, had a number of wins in Europe, and then, as a player of his age, sometimes he's gotten into the family life and the business life. He's got a couple restaurants open, one in Orlando. I forget where the other one is. I think it might be in the Ponte Vedra Beach area. He got married. He's got his first kid now. And so all the priorities shift a little bit. Not that golf isn't important, but it has to be worked in with everything else that he has going on. And not the first time we've seen that with players, but that's kind of where he has been the last couple of years. That win that he had at Mayakoba, as I said, was kind of a last-minute thing where he was playing well and decided to go one more week, but that he was coming off a pretty bad year that year as well. So he's just trying to find the proper balance with everything.
All right. Well, we'll see what he can do. And maybe that will get him going. That's the problem is that whenever Graham does something one week, he disappears the next. So he hasn't been consistent at all over the last couple of years. So we'll see if he can start the consistency now, especially in a field like this. There should be no excuse for him to play well. All right, Jeff, your official long shot now, 50-1 or more. Who are you going to go with?
Well, I've been trying to weigh a number of different names here. Kind of came down to two. I'm going to go with the older of the two, but Stewart Cink, we've talked about it on a couple of previous shows, has started to see his game come around again, and with the way that Mayakoba seems to cater to the older generation, this might be the place for him to break through again.
All right, so Stewart Cink at 75-1, going with that older label there as a good long shot. Cink coming off a pretty decent season. All right, I've got a bunch of different options here as well, guys that are nice long shots. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead out of all these guys I like and go with Patton Kizzire. Mentioned him last week, maybe somebody to watch. After a solid, he had a 10th place finish the event before that, and then he followed it up last week with a 4th. And this is a guy who had that really big 2015 couple Web.com tour wins. He has some runner-ups, including on the PGA Tour. So maybe this is his first sign since then that he might be getting his game back again. So I'll take Patton Kizzire at 50-1 as my long shot. Joel.
I'm going to go good mix here of strong recent play and good fit for the course. Ryan Armour at 50-1. He's got a win in a T20 in his last two starts. He led the tour in driving accuracy last year. Hit second in driving accuracy last week. Was third tee to green. And it's always a good idea to have a Buckeye in your lineup whenever you get one. So I think this is a good week for him.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that would work this week after what happened last week, but hey, they could use all the help they can get now to wipe out that memory of last Saturday. All right, so
I've already repressed it.
Okay, nice try. Next, okay, so Armour. Oh wow, 2 wins for Armour after not having a win ever, right, on a PGA Tour?
That's correct.
All right, big gamble there for Ryan Armour at 50-1. Who is your official long shot in this one, Joel. All right, Jeff, 2 more picks to go. Your first alternate in case anything happens to Hadley, Howell, or List.
Well, definitely going back to the veterans well, and this one has a couple of top 5s at Mayakoba to his resume, and that is Kevin Streelman, who has also got a couple of top 15s already this year.
All right, Kevin Streelman. Yes, he does have some top 5s here. And he's borderline long shot at 45-1. I will go with somebody who finished runner-up last year. I'll go Gary Woodland at 20-1. And Woodland was not half bad last week, finished in the top 20, and again was runner-up last year to Pat Perez. Okay, Joel, your number 1 alternate?
No, don't like too much of what's left, but I'll go with Chappell. at 25-1. Those are decent odds. He got off to a great start last week and kind of fizzled a little after there. Although the final result wasn't bad.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a good guy in that range, 25-1 in this field.
All right, and other players that we did not take, we have Patrick Reed at 20-1. We have Ryan Moore, Benny On at 33-1, Kokrak and Lahiri at 40-1. All right, Jeff, long shots. Who's your alternate in case Sink does not play tomorrow? Who are you going to go with?
I'm going to see if one of the runner-ups from last week can continue his momentum. Again, going back into the veterans well, and kind of the same thing for Alex Cheka as with Chesson Hadley. His lone PGA Tour win came at a Latin American locale outside the United States.
Wow. Okay. Well, that actually surprised me. I thought you were gonna, when you said runner-up, I thought you were gonna go with Kim in that one. So you're going with the veteran trend though, with Cheka in that one. Yeah, I mean that's. I tell you what, I'll take Kim. I was thinking about a player who I talked about last week. I'm not even sure if I took him as an alternate. If I didn't, I mentioned him as somebody that I was interested in. That's Bo Hostler. Hostler was, and he's got back-to-back top 10. So I was thinking about Hostler, but I just think Kim right now maybe playing a little bit better. Fourth at 9 Bridges, runner-up playoff loss last week. So I'll go with the hot hand there in Kim at 66-1. Joel, who are you going to take?
I'm going to take someone. I thought he was going to have a much better year than he did, but he's a good fit here, and he's had good results before. That's Emiliano Grillo at 50-1. He tied for 10th last year. He hits lost fairways and greens. Hasn't quite had the results lately that we thought he might, but he's played well here before. And he's a younger guy, but he seems to like it.
Yeah, I was a big Grillo picker about a year ago when he was hot, but he just has not played well at all for a while. And he's playing a little bit better now over the last month or so, over his last 6 or 7 events, but still not where he was last year, about a year and a half. About a year ago, right around pretty much, I guess, this time of year last year. But yeah, talented player and a field where, like you said, 10th last week, maybe that'll get his game going.
Okay. 10th last year.
10th last year, yeah. So again, yeah, other players that I was definitely considering, again, Bo Hostler, back-to-back top 10s. One of my picks last week, Austin Cook, was 20th. He's 75-1. Hostler's 80-1. JJ Spawn's another good pick, 75-1. He really had probably more of an opportunity than anybody last week to win. Did not close the deal, but he seems to be trending in the right direction. So those would probably be the top players that we have not taken yet that are still on the board that I was considering. What about you, Jeff?
I was definitely looking at Hostler and also at Spawn. You wonder how Spawn rebounds psychologically after playing his last 4 holes and 5 over par. I think it was the other way around. Last 5 holes and 4 over par. But that had to sting. Can he bounce back quickly this week? We talked about Hostler. Scott Brown intrigued me. He's been kind of that solid player that would fit the veteran category. So I thought about him a little bit. And I think those are the only ones that really were still on my radar. Brian Stewart, perhaps. He's the only guy, by the way, that has played in every one of these, so nobody's going to know the course better. And he's been playing better in recent seasons as compared to previous.
All right. By the way, Russell Knox has been really good here recently. 3rd and 2nd. I think that's his last 2 trips here, right? And he just hasn't been playing well, though. So Russell Knox is not on top of his game. But he is 66-1, and he's played this course really well recently. So keep that in mind. Johnny Vegas, also like Knox, is 66-1. He was 10th last week. And let's see, Lingmerth is here at 80 to 1. That might be a good number for him. We've liked Nick Taylor recently. Maybe he's somebody to keep an eye on at 100 to 1. Aaron Baddeley was 10th last week. He's at 100 to 1. And let's see. What about some of these other names out there, Joel? Have you heard of these guys before? We haven't talked about them. Taylor Gooch was 16th last week. He's 125 to 1. And Brandon Harkins and Adam Schenk were both 20th last week and are both 150 to 1. So we haven't talked about any of these guys before. Are you familiar with any of them?
Not especially. Just I know that they've been playing better this year. There were some longer odds guys I really liked, like Steven Yeager, and I think Jim Herman's a great fit for this course too at 175 to 1. But I wasn't really considering any. I didn't give too much consideration to any of those three guys.
Chris Stroud's another guy that really likes this golf course. He has 3 top 5s here, and he's 150 to 1. But Stroud had his moment of glory at the PGA Championship in the week before when he got the win, and has kind of disappeared since then. Jeff, you know any of these guys?
Taylor Gooch is a former standout at Oklahoma State, helped lead them to the Final 8 of the NCAAs a couple of times, and has had a decent amateur career during his college days, came up through the Web.com Tour. I think he actually won one of the Web.com Tour events this past season. The only other thing is that Schenk is a really bad last name to have if you're a professional golfer.
Yeah, that might not. If he starts to actually play better and get into contention more and have his name bandied about on social media more, I think he might be right. I think he'll like that though. But
whatever gets you recognition these days,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. All right. So, and by the way, former champs are here. Let's see. You got Mark Wilson, the 09 champ, is 400 to 1. John Ha, the 2012 champ, is 150 to 1. Johnson Wagner's 125 to 1, the 2011 champ. So is Harris English, the 2013 champ, and 150 to 1 to Brian Gay, the 08 champ, is also in the field. Okay, so in Europe, the second leg of their playoffs, we kind of mentioned that just a little bit before at the Open, race to Dubai. And Alex Noren defends his title at the Nedbank in South Africa. And Tyrrell Hatton, of course, is coming off a couple of wins recently. Ross Fisher's playing really well. Rafa Cabrera Bello also in the field this week at the Nedbank Challenge. Jeff, anything else there we should know about?
Just that as with the PGA Tour and the FedEx Cup, the field narrows, so only the top 60 in points this week will advance to Dubai. And so that will create a little bit of a race down below, although most of those guys are not names that are recognizable on this continent.
And taking a look at the odds, Hatton is the favorite at 14 to 1. Grace Ustays in her next at 16 to 1. Fleetwood, Fisher, Fitzpatrick, and Molinari are 18 to 1, and defending champ Alex Noren at 22 to 1. Shane Lowry is also 22 to 1. He played pretty well last week. And Abi Bonrot, you took him a few weeks ago. He's been playing pretty decent. He's 33 to 1. And you've got Martin Keimer in the field. Harrington had a good week last week. He's in the field. So there's some good names. And Nicholas Colsaerts, another player that looked like he had a good chance to win last week. Wasn't able to close the deal. He's playing this week as well at 33 to 1. All right. And by the way, will you be tuning into the PGA Tour Champions event, Joel? The Charles Schwab Cup points title is going to be crowned, I guess, right, in Phoenix?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there's ever a time to watch a specific 50-year-old or older golfer, I mean, just what Longer has been doing the last few years has just been incredible. See if he can get that 8th win, 4th straight Charles Schwab Cup. He's incredible to watch his putting and just everything he's doing right now. It's something we haven't really seen on that tour, where quite this level of dominance. I know Hale Irwin was great for a long time, but
Yep.
I'll definitely be tuning in for that. Some of those other ones. I always like seeing John Daly in these things too. I don't feel too much, but mostly it's just to see Longer, but there's some other intriguing names in there as well.
So Jeff, only a handful of names have an opportunity to win the title. The whole thing?
Well, it's built like the FedEx Cup. Everybody in that field has a mathematical chance to win, but if you're at the bottom, you need to win and have Bernhard Langer finish next to last or something of that nature, which isn't going to happen. But as with the FedEx Cup, the top five players all are able to win without any help if they win at Phoenix Country Club this week. So Scott McCarron is a distant second, but he is second. And so he can win. Kenny Perry, Miguel Angel Jimenez, and Kevin Sutherland. Any one of those five, if they finish atop the leaderboard in Phoenix, will actually snatch the Charles Schwab Cup out of Bernhard Langer's grasp, which, that's one of those things where is that really the way you want your season to end, the way Langer has already dominated the season and swept the first two playoff events, but that's the setup. And it is interesting to note that of all of the wins that Bernhard Langer has stacked up in his decade or thereabouts on the PGA Tour Champions, he has never won the Charles Schwab Cup season finale.
All right. So we'll see if we can do both, win the event and the championship this week. And then that's it for the
guys. Sure. I'll say there's a few guys just on the outside of that top five that are real interesting too, and Vijay Singh and Fred Couples. They're going to need longer to fall back a little bit, but they're not too far off of that. I think they're like just inside the top 10.
Okay.
Yeah, and Jerry Kelly and Colin Montgomery come in with a little bit of momentum too, although that might be one of those situations, kind of like what we had last year with Paul Goydos. Paul Goydos won the tournament. He was far enough outside the top 10 that he wasn't going to win the Charles Schwab Cup because Langer was second and was able to seal things that way. Although last year was interesting because Montgomery and Langer were actually in kind of this battle inside the leaderboard where if Montgomery had finished second and Langer third, they would have been tied in points and they would have had to go to a sudden death playoff, not for the tournament, but for the Charles Schwab Cup itself.
Now, is this called the Charles Schwab Cup Championship event?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I mean, we've seen hot players before when they're low on odds. I mean, do you think Bernhard Langer sitting there at about 3-1 to win this week, based on what we've seen before from great players, is that a little too low for you to risk with Bernhard Langer, or do you think he's worth it?
He's the guy that's won the last two playoff events. He's had a week's rest. There was a week's break in the scheduling, so it's not like he's coming in running low on batteries. And as well as Scott McCarron in particular has played. The other three have been hot and cold, but Scott McCarron really has had a great season, but nobody's going to know about it because of what Langer has done. But McCarron has won 3 or 4 events and had his share of runner-ups.
Okay.
But those are the two that event in and event out have really dominated the tour this season.
All right, McCarron's the third choice behind Miguel Angel Jimenez. McCarron at 9-1, Jimenez at 8-1, and your boy John Daly, by the way, is at 100-1, Joel. So if you got a buck, then enjoy. Okay, what else is going on, Joel, at Pro Golf Weekly?
Oh, thanks, Greg. Yes, please check out Pro Golf Weekly at progolfweekly.com. Where you can get all the stats, videos, compelling analysis, key highlights, and the best in social media for every pro tour worldwide, including PGA and LPGA tours. It's actually a great time to look at this site right now. We've amped up the content a bit here. We have extended storylines for all 4 tours. The Charles Schwab Cup, which we were just talking about, the Mayakoba and Nedbank and the Blue Bay LPGA. there's a lot of good stuff in there. We have the odds to win for each of those. The extended storylines and primers, kind of everything you need to know for those kind of for each of those. But please follow me at this is ProGolfWeekly.com for the best in social media and your one-stop web portal for all pro golf tours worldwide. Please follow me at Joel J. Cook on Twitter for the latest update, commentary, and much more. And tune in next week when we have the last official tournament, or PGA anyway, of 2017 with the RSM.
All right, one more to go. Thanks, Joel. We'll do it again next week.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's Joel Cook from ProGolfWeekly.com. And don't forget also to check out Jeff Shane's first look reports at PGAtour.com one more time for 2017 for next week's event. And is that the RSM, did he say? Is that what it is?
Yeah, the RSM Classic at Sea Island.
At Sea Island. Okay, so that's next week. Check that out on Friday. PGAtour.com. You could also check out Jeff's Around the Tours report, which is out right now at Prime Sports Network, including some of the information this week that we did not talk about on the show from the women's side. The women's on the LPGA Tour, they have a new number one. And also this week, the Blue Bay LPGA event. Is the year's final Asian stop before they return for the season-ending CME Group Tour Championship in Florida. So that's on Jeff Shane's Around the Tours report at PrimeSportsNetwork.com. So, Jeff, we'll do this one more time next week, and then we get our break. Of course, we'll probably do a little bit of I'm sure we will have a 20-minute kind of report for the Hero Challenge, since there's going to be some good players there, including Tiger. So we'll definitely do that.
Works for me. It doesn't take much to go through the entire field for the Hero World Challenge.
No.
But they are all recognizable names, people that we talk about all the time on this show.
Yeah, so we'll be doing that, and that's in what? Is that a week after the season ends? The week after the year ends.
That's the week after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And
so it's in
actually
December.
Starts on the 30th of November, and then the first weekend of December.
All right. So hope you followed that. Well, I still think that some of these, I think online they have to figure out a better way of figuring out this whole they have to handle the 2017-18 kind of deal that seems to confuse people. I mean, if you go online trying to look for the results of some of these events, I mean, it's 2018/2017 and parentheses 2016, 2015. And you look on some of these charts and they're not even available for some years, because I think they like double up the years for some. I mean, so I don't know why they just don't figure it out. They've figured it out in NBA and NHL, but they're having a hard time figuring it out online for this wraparound stuff that hopefully they won't be calling wraparound much longer. But we will be here next week to finish 2017 on the PGA Tour besides the Hero Challenge. And that's one more event to go for the 2018 season until we do get to the calendar year of 2018. So I want to thank Joel Cook from ProGolfWeekly.com for joining us, Jeff Shane as well. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at PrimeSN. We've got a lot of football coverage coming up later this week, so don't forget that on the Ourlads Football Network. And we might even have some college basketball as well a little bit later on tonight, with the college basketball season starting on Friday. So for Jeff, for Joel, I am Greg. We will see you next time on Prime Sports Golf on the Prime Sports Radio Network.